you can see I've got a very simple sketch established here. And I'm going to take some white and blue on a filbert brush. I'm going to paint in a very simple, just the tiniest bit of red in that, a very, very simple blue sky. In case you haven't noticed or you don't know this scene, maybe you're not from the United States, this is Yosemite, California. Specifically, this is El Capitan, and that is Half Dome right there. It's a very, very famous view, and I'm working on a 6x6 canvas, very small. And the reason I'm doing that is because I had the canvas laying around, and I finally, I've been wanting to use it. I finally decided to go and just use it. Couldn't really ever figure out what I wanted to paint on it. I've been wanting to paint El Capitan for quite a while. I never got around to it because I've been busy doing other things and whatnot, but I'm finally getting around to it. I guess this is a canvas board, and this is a canvas board. So I've got one taped to another. So if this comes peeling off and falling to the ground, well, we'll just pick it up again and stick it back on. I just got a piece of tape on there, holding it on right now and hoping that'll be enough. Anyway, it's pretty scratchy looking. We're gonna need to blend that. I have a blender brush standing by, but I don't think I need it. Not yet, at least. Let me go ahead and paint just some tiny little clouds here. So let me grab a little detail brush. I'm gonna take some white, a little touch of red, not much. Let's paint some clouds. I don't know how many clouds we want. I'm loosely following, every photo of this mountain. Not anything particular that I'm, gonna paint. Like I don't have my own photo to copy, and so I'm not going to copy. I'm going to just take and get the general dimensions because it is a real mountain, obviously. So I'll get the general dimensions correct, and the rest I'm just going to kind of make up or just go with the flow, see what happens. And like these clouds are not anything, from a picture or anything, just little tiny clouds. We'll just see what happens. There we go. It's kind of fun though, just dabbling around and really create a lot of impact, a lot of detail very quickly. Oh, the other thing I should mention is I actually sanded this canvas smooth just a little bit, and that helps. I think it helps mostly just in the camera because otherwise you'll get a lot of that texture showing through. But I think this is better because I've got the camera so close up. I mean, look at the size of my hand, Here's some cloud behind that mountain. Anyway, is it perfect? No, but this is the right idea. And it's not even going to be perfectly accurate. I've got a large tree here. I've kind of brought the lake up. The lake, you normally don't see it when you're looking from this angle. There is a lake down, a little river down here, but it's not a lake, it's a little river. But anyway, you get the idea. Now I'm going to begin to work in some umber tones here and a little bluish tone into the backside of this mountain. And what that's going to do is cool it down, gray it down, and begin to help it to look like it's coming forward. So I've got reddish purples and burnt umbers and blues. I've got all kinds of color in here, and it's not just one flat color, but it represents a lot of different things that are happening in this little mountain, and it's tiny. And it may be, we're probably gonna wipe it off because I'm using a canvas panel. The cardboard, which is the center of the panel, may absorb a lot of the oil and it may dry the paint out. So we may not really have to. We'll see how fast something like that would happen, but just be aware that does happen. Oh, it definitely happens. Now over here, let's go ahead and actually that's going to be a little bit more on the blue side. So let's work on that, maybe being some more of the blue with that, tone. There we go. Because I want a little more atmosphere on this side. That's a little further away. I'm using an old 1/4 inch brush. Don't do this with a new one because you'll actually ruin it by scrubbing. You'll scrub it too much and ruin the hair, and it won't come to a point anymore. But if it's old, it already doesn't, so it doesn't matter, does it? There we go. Just continue. It's tiny. Continue working in these little areas. There's the basic highlight spot on Half Dome right there. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then back here, I've just got little touches. That's all it's going to take, little touches of highlight. Now I'm going to make a mix here of just some slightly warmer tones. This is out in the sunlight. Here's some green, perhaps even with it. And I'm going to begin to just kind of almost sketch in or block in some of these lighter areas. That's probably too light, actually. I like to go light sometimes on my underpaintings, depending on what I'm doing. A lot of the times I think we go too dark, honestly, with our underpainting, because at least as a beginner, that's one of the things I notice that people do as a beginner is paint their underpaintings just black, dark. There's no color or life to the underpainting. And to me, if you have color and life in your underpainting, well, then your highlights just seem to go on so much easier, don't they? So that is my goal. Some of this is rock. That's what I'm indicating right now. Some of this, that it's rock. And then the rest is, of course, going to be just vegetation, trees, and whatnot. We've actually got a little forest back here. Lots and lots of trees. I'm not sure how detailed I'm going to end up having to be. My guess is probably somewhat detailed. Even though this is small, I don't want it to look bad. So we're going to make it detailed. I'm just blocking in color. Maybe even a little bit more than normal. I'm kind of being a little bit more loose. Just trying to get things covered. And then I feel like I can just pull what I want out of it. I think. That's at least the plan so far. We'll see how quickly that plan changes. Now I'm in the process of highlighting our little mountain here. You may notice this brush is a little different. Its handle is gray, and that's because it's from my acrylic line, but it's the smallest brush that I have in either line. You know, the tiny little microfilbert. It's synthetic bristles, so it's perfectly fine to use in whatever you want to use it in. And so I'm going to use it here because it's very effective. There you go. So either wash it out really, really well before you put it back in your acrylic, which is what I'm going to do, or buy a separate one for acrylic and one for oil. That works also. But just wash it out really good and you should be okay. But yeah, I'm happy to use this brush because it just gives me a little bit more control in highlighting this little mountain. You could do it with a little detail round brush. Come on, brain. Focusing on my little, it's so tiny, I gotta pay attention. But yeah, you could use a detail round brush. That'd be fine too. Whatever you want to use. Use a 2-inch brush if you want. That'll really get it done quick, won't it? Yeah, just certainly will. Just creating all these beautiful little cracks. It doesn't have to be exactly the shape of this. You make it any shape you like. I'm trying to make it look like a specific mountain, but you don't have to. If you want to do your version of this, you want it to look different, that's cool. There we go. I want it to be recognizably Yosemite. You could just as well do this on a bigger canvas and have a great result. I'm just happen to have this painting, this canvas and frame laying around for months, and I was just ready to use it. I've been wanting to use it. I'm ready to use it. And I like doing mountains on small scale. They're fun. Fun to see all the little tiny details like I'm working here. If at any time this gets to be too much, you just wipe it off and keep going. It should be okay. And you'll lose your detail, but the colors and the tones, and some of it will remain. Beginning to introduce a little walnut oil into this painting, just feel like it helps a little bit. It is a bit sticky because of that. If you have never painted on a little canvas panel, these cheap, I think this probably cost $2, if that. The cheap canvas panels do absorb your paint, so you'll notice that in a matter of, 20, 30 minutes, you'll notice that your paint becomes kind of sticky. Not dry, but sticky. And it won't dry necessarily much of any faster, but it just becomes really hard to work. And so some of that walnut oil will replace the oil that is being drawn out by the core of our little board. Just a little technical thing for you. It's how it works, not a big deal. And as it is, it's looking pretty decent. I'm trying to make this a little more textured. That's what I've got to work with is texture. So I'm trying to make this a little more pebbly. This is a bunch of little like landslide type of rocks. Now, it through my brush. It looks a little bit silly right now because I don't have my darks in, but I wanted to get my lighter tones in before I do my darks because I think the darks will just eat those light tones right up. So I'm going to try that now. I'm going to take some of my colors here. Some green, brown, black. I'm not going to add any of that walnut oil just yet, but I certainly could in a minute, and I very well might. I'm just not going to do it yet. And I'm going to, with not too much paint, I can always add more. Yeah, and down here is this is a little tree line right down here. That's going to be a little pond, lake, or it's a river or something. I don't know. It's in Yosemite. It really is there, but I'm kind of mashing multiple scenes together. This isn't completely accurate. I don't think it really needs to be. I think it's more fun that way. It's just me. Anyway, these need to be fairly dark because they're fairly close. So I'm just going to create a lot of little shapes, little dots, a lot of little shapes. And what this is going to do is I'm going to change the color up. Every time I reload, try to get a slightly different color. You can add ochre, various different colors in there if you want to. And then I've got to highlight this as well. So I don't want to do everything. I just want to do splotchy here and there. Bigger here in the foreground. Then as I go up here, I'm actually going to get smaller. So I'm going to have some amount of depth even within this little, this is a tiny painting, but you still want to follow those basic concepts of creating distance because it makes a big difference. It really does. And how much detail you put in truly is up to you. I don't think it really has a set, amount that has to be in here, but I'm going to go until it feels about right, and then I'm going to stop. How's that? Very scientific. Just about as scientific as we get around here. There we go. Now I'm bringing in some of these nice, sharp, dark shadows, and the reason I'm doing that, just a little burnt umber, black for the most part. The reason I'm doing that is, see, it creates such a level of pulling this forward. Don't know what I'm trying to say, but you get the idea. I'm pulling this forward, pushing that back. See, El Capitan back there has got to be further away. Like it's got to look further away. If it's going to be all the same color, it's going to be flat as a board. But if I have darker tones here, much darker tones, on my foreground little mountain here, which probably has a name and I don't know it, so there you go. It'll come right forward, and that's what I want. So that's what I'm doing. Lots of little bumps, lots of little details. And it's hard because this is really the smallest brush I have, but I'd hate to go any smaller with this because I'd just be here all day. As it is, I'm kind of already here all day. Even though it's a small painting, it's really requiring a lot of precision and detail that I wasn't totally sure it needed. But, the more I do, the more I feel like I need to do. So I'm just going to continue with it. I'll know where to stop because it'll feel like it's done. Or else I'll just start making a whole bunch of mistakes. That's not usually how it goes anymore. It is when you're learning, and that's okay. But you'll get to where you can totally see it. You'll feel it. It's about done. That you'll have enough experience to know it's not going to go much further. Now I'm using still the microfilbert brush from the acrylic line. I'm loading it by pushing just forward into my pile of paint, which is a little bit creamy with walnut oil. And I'm using this to kind of create some vegetation, some foliage. There is regular trees and evergreens mixed in, but right now I'm doing a little patch of regular trees. There's no reason to cover up all my background tone. I'd like to see some of that background tone showing through. So let's not cover it all. All right, but I do want it to feel like they're not too close. So I've got to watch out that those pockets of dark are not too distinct yet. Let's see, we'll leave room and space to do that here. Anyway, that looks pretty good, doesn't it? It's the right idea. So I'm just going to go through this painting, the background. That walnut oil helps it to stick. Thin it down slightly so it sticks a little easier. I don't always do that, but I sometimes do. There you go. It's fun. This is one of those paintings. Let me just give you a huge tip. Something I've learned is you need to relax if you want this to go smoothly. If you want it to go smoothly, you need to relax and just paint. And don't worry, don't stress, don't think about the time, and just relax. And it will go more smoothly than if you try to force it and try to think, oh no, I've got to paint 3 million little trees. It's not a big deal. There we go. And the sooner you relax, the more fun you'll have, and everything goes faster. And don't try to space everything out perfectly. I like personally to get in there and do it pretty rough, do it pretty quick, because I feel like it gives me a better result, really. I'm going to bring in some of these evergreen trees. I didn't know how far to take my mountain, really. And I decided to go ahead and throw this in, because this will help me decide how much further or not. Maybe it doesn't need a thing. How much further do I want to take my little mountain area? I tried to put in just a little bit more, just filled it in there. Needed some color, just have a separation. There we go, boom. This is good. I'm just gonna create this line of trees, not any big deal, really. Just a little line of trees, because those trees are going to be reflected in the water. And I think that'll be so pretty. Just very simple. Ooh, I like that area. It's a tiny little painting, and this could grow to be really, really big if I'm not careful with it. So, I'm going to be careful. I do need a few, though, that come up higher. And they'll push that other mountain back. But it's still kind of crispy. It's still kind of crispy. It's not meant to be fuzzy. You could do yours fuzzy, and that's okay. Real quick, let's go ahead and just, while I've got the paint and the brush, let's go ahead and let's do, this is such a tiny water area. I'm just gonna take some blue and some white. Blue and white, a little teeny touch of red, and that'll just, I don't know, add a little warmth to it and take out any green that might want to happen because of my dirty palette and brushes. But I'm just gonna create now a little blue sky. Blue sky reflection in the water, really. Not blue sky, you knew what I meant. All right, and then now that that's done, I can pretty simply just blend down. Reflections in oil are easily one of the most effective, easy, good looking things to do. It's easy and it looks amazing. Almost need to get out a bigger brush. There we go, just get a few of these little reflections, and it's a small painting, so I can get away with a little bit more sloppiness. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to just pick up some colors with a lot of paint. I want a lot of texture because that'll help it to stick. I'm also adding walnut oil to the mix, and I've got quite a lot of paint in the brush, and that's going to help me to add on these little accent highlights to the trees. I got the little tree line here. Some of them is bushy trees and some of them are evergreens. But either way, I need them to be, let's come down a little further. I need them to stick, to be bright. And let me lighten that up a little because these are foreground. Even though they're only an inch tall. So I need them bright. Sparkle up the edges of that tree. Oh, it's pretty. Pretty. I like that. I like that a lot. I've got, even though these trees are so microscopic, I've still got multiple colors. That one there, I blobbed it a little. Hey, let me tell you, when you paint small, you're gonna blob. And that is just part of the game, and it's okay if you blob it, because you can always get back and unblob it with a little dark color. And so I'm kind of trying to be as precise as possible. I've been looking into, well, I've not been looking into, but I've been thinking about looking into one of those steady sticks. And I may get one and start playing with it, because as we go and we do more detailed things, it might be nice to have one of those. Painter's maul stick, I believe they're called. So if you'd like to put some information in the comments below, if you've got any advice or suggestions when it comes to that, and I may ask my patron people too. Now, I kind of hate to do it, but I'm going to do it because it'll be good for the painting. I'm going to go ahead and place in my little evergreen tree up here. And just starting kind of smaller than I want it and building it outward. This is going to be, of course, the shadow side of the tree. So we don't need to worry too much about a lot of detail. As far as color goes, I'm just going with some dark tones, and I'll spice it up a little. I'll throw in some red, some gold. It won't be just solid. One flat dead color. Oh, I've got a frame. So I might as well bring that painting out, or the tree out a little bit, so that the frame has a chance to not cover it so much. There we go. I hope I didn't spend too much time in this area. Don't want to cover Half Dome too much. I don't think, well, yeah, there are these big trees, so if you position yourself, you would probably see something that looks a lot like this. Doesn't make any difference. This is so much just my own thing. It'd be different if you went to Yosemite, which I've been several times, a couple times, not that many times, and took your own picture and painted from that, which I've done. I got videos on that. Then you might want to copy it exactly. But because I'm not doing that today, I'm having a lot more flexibility with how that I actually go about this painting than if you were trying to follow a picture, which there's nothing wrong, of course, with doing that as well. So, you know, options, lots of options. I feel like this really helps. It really helps to build that layering within this painting that we so desperately need. I covered some of the stuff. I liked some of that, but it's okay. It'll be okay. You can always paint it again on another painting, do something similar. I'm just going to put on a few darker tones. Everything is a mid-tone and a shadow. The highlight side, of course, is covered. It's covered over here somewhere off the painting. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a lot of concentrating on little strokes. I thought this, typically it is faster to paint. Don't get me wrong, it's faster to paint smaller. And a lot of times it's easier. It's just, I feel like it's taking more concentration than I expected it to. Well, that about wraps things up. Let's take a look at it in the frame. You can see that the frame really enhances and pops out the colors and just, I don't know, makes it feel more finished and like it makes it feel bigger, doesn't it? And I bought the frame when I bought the canvas, kind of with this whole thing in mind. I thought it'd be interesting. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Definitely check out our brushes, our DVD lessons, Patreon, the downloads, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe if you're not already and click the like button. It helps me out a lot. Stick around, watch a couple more videos, and stay inspired.